Welcome to Tales from Panperipta, where clouds wear capes and dreams drift on starlit winds. Each episode brings you gentle, whimsical bedtime stories set in the vast and magical realm of Panperipta, a world full of sleepy trolls, moon-sweeping tinkers, and curious frog inventors. Whether you're here to unwind or doze off, you're always welcome in Panperipta. Take a deep breath and drift.
Story 1: The Lantern of Truth and the Whistling Wood. Introduction. In the hush-leaf realm of Panperipta, where moonlight hums through silver vines and whispers curl around tree trunks like ribbons of smoke, there fluttered a tiny forest fairy named Tilly Thimblewish. Her wings shimmered in trickster colors, gold when she told the truth, violet when she didn't. Tilly owned a peculiar lantern that could sense falsehoods. It glowed bright white when honesty filled the air and dimmed to dull gray when lies crept too close. One chilly dawn, deep within the whistling wood, the lantern began to flicker for no reason at all, neither lie nor truth nearby. Something was wrong, and Tilly, ever curious and never cautious, decided to find out why. Chapter 1: The Fading of the Lantern. Tilly zipped between fern fronds, clutching her trembling lantern. The flame inside sputtered like a frightened heart. "Don't you dare go out on me," she whispered, shaking it gently. But the light dimmed further still. As she flew deeper into the woods, the air thickened with a kind of silent hum, a noise so quiet it almost wasn't sound at all. The whistling wood was known for its singing branches, but today the trees stood still. Every breeze that passed seemed to swallow its own song. She landed on a mossy stump and glanced about. The silence was total. Her lantern flared white for a moment and then flickered out entirely. That was when she saw them, 3 small stones arranged in a triangle, pulsing faintly beneath the soil. She brushed away the dirt and gasped. Each stone bore a rune of silence, glowing with trapped voices. Someone had stolen the forest's sound. Chapter 2: The Trickster of Echo Hollow. Tilly followed the faint trail of rune light until it led her to the hollow of an ancient willow. Inside sat a creature the size of a mouse, wearing a patchwork cloak stitched from owl feathers and dew threads. Its grin was crooked, its eyes mischievous. "Ah, the fairy with the glowing truth toy," the creature chirped. "Looking for your songs, are you?" "Give them back," Tilly demanded, holding up her lantern. "The woods can't breathe without their music." The creature leaned closer, peering at the dim lantern. "Your little light won't help you here. It burns for honesty, not riddles. And I," he said with a grin, "am both." He introduced himself as Merrig the Echo Thief, a trickster spirit who collected sounds the way dragons collected gold. He claimed the forest's song had grown too predictable, and that he meant only to make it interesting again. Tilly knew a liar when she saw one, except the lantern stayed dim. The truth and lie was so tangled it couldn't tell which was which. Chapter 3: The Song Restored. Tilly thought for a long while. Merrig twirled a pebble between his fingers, humming the stolen tune of the whistling wood under his breath. Then Tilly smiled slyly. "If you truly meant no harm, then let's make a trade. I'll give you a song you've never heard before, if you free the ones you've taken. Merrick tilted his head. Never heard before? Impossible. Oh, it's not impossible, Tilly said, lifting her lantern. It's just unheard. She whispered into the lantern a melody made of truth itself. The light burst back to life, white as a newborn star. The trees around them shivered, the runes cracked. A single note escaped and grew into a chorus. Wind whooshed, leaves rustled, and the forest breathed again. Merrick fell back, laughing. You tricked me fair and square, he shouted over the song storm. Perhaps the truth can lie when sung beautifully enough. When the sound finally settled, he was gone. Only a single owl feather remained. Epilogue. That night, the whistling wood sang again, soft, shy, grateful. Tilly perched upon her lantern and listened until dawn. Its light no longer flickered, for it had learned that truth wasn't only in words, but in the courage to protect what matters. And if you ever walk beneath silver vines and hear the woods hum back at you, listen closely. You may hear a fairy's laugh woven through the wind. Story 2. The Dreamsmith's Mirror. Introduction. In the twilight-veiled realm of Panperipta, where clouds curl like question marks and starlight ripples across floating cities, there drifted a sorceress named Madame Drousel. She lived in a sky city of hammocks and moon bridges, crafting dreams for weary travelers in her glass atelier. Her paints were brewed from midnight and melody, her brushes made from moth wings. But one evening, as she prepared a dream for a sleepless prince, her mirror refused to show her reflection. Instead, it whispered her own lullaby back to her, backwards. Chapter 1. The Mirror That Sang. Madame Drousel frowned at the mirror, her silver hair glinting in the candlelight. The glass pulsed with faint ripples, like a pond touched by sound. Backwards dreams, she murmured. That's not how they're meant to flow. She waved her brush through the air, tracing circles of starlight. Nothing changed. The mirror hummed her lullaby again, softly, hauntingly reversed. She leaned closer and caught a glimpse not of herself, but of another figure entirely, a shadowy woman, painting with smoke instead of light. Her strokes made nightmares bloom into full color. Drousel realized, horrified, that someone had learned to paint anti-dreams, reflections of hope turned inside out. She fastened her cloak and drifted toward the dream vein, the current of raw imagination that flowed through the upper skies. If she could find where the reflection came from, she could end it before it spread through sleeping minds. Chapter 2. The Anti-Dream Weaver. Within the swirling corridor of the dream vein, Drousel floated past orbs of sleeping thought, tiny glowing cocoons holding slumberers' fantasies. She followed the backward humming until she reached a fissure in the fabric of night itself. There, painting upon nothingness, stood Amara, her former apprentice. Amara had vanished seasons ago after claiming that dreams were too fragile to help humankind. Now, she painted from bitterness. Each brush stroke dripped into the world below, seeding nightmares among innocent sleepers. Amara, Drousel said softly, her voice a lullaby and warning in one. "You cannot heal sorrow by painting more of it." Her apprentice turned, eyes shimmering violet. "They don't deserve peace. They forget the beauty they're given. My nightmares remind them what it costs to dream." The mirror Drousel carried trembled in her hand. It reflected Amara perfectly, perhaps too perfectly, for a reflection's truth, once recognized, could break even the most stubborn illusion. Chapter 3. The Shattering of the Glass. Drousel raised the mirror and began to hum, not her lullaby, but Amara's favorite childhood tune. It drifted through the rift like a ribbon of dawn. The mirror glowed brighter until the reflection shimmered with both women's faces, side by side. "You painted your pain," Drousel said gently, "but I can repaint it." Amara hesitated. Her smoke brush faltered. The nightmare colors around her wavered and thinned, revealing faint traces of dreamlight beneath. "Come home," Drousel whispered. "We'll mix a new hue together." For a long time, the apprentice said nothing. Then, with trembling hands, she dipped her brush into Drousel's paint jar. The moment she touched it, the mirror burst into 1,000 shards, each one carrying a reversed note of the lullaby. Together, they formed a chord that mended the rift. The anti-dreams dissolved like mist in sunlight. Epilogue. Back in her atelier, Drousel rehung the now empty mirror frame. It reflected nothing but sky. Beside her stood Amara, silent and remorseful, but free from shadow. Together, they painted new dreams for the prince, this time of forgiveness, not sorrow. And on some nights, when the stars blink slower than usual, you might hear the faint sound of a lullaby painting itself across the heaven. Story 3. The Tinker and the Clockwork Moon. Introduction. In the wind-bright realm of Panperipta, where dawn drips like honey from the clouds and every breeze hums with hidden machinery, there lived a gentle tinker named Nilo Fernwhistle. His cottage in Wimberdale was cluttered with gears, springs, and sketches of impossible inventions, most of which he'd half finished, half forgotten, or accidentally baked into muffins. One morning, as he tinkered by lamplight, a metallic thump echoed outside his window. When he stepped into the garden, he found a silver sphere no bigger than a melon, glowing faintly and ticking like a heart. On its surface were words etched in moonlight. "Return me before I stop, or the sky will forget the night." Chapter 1. The Heart That Ticked. Nilo carried the sphere into his workshop, setting it gently upon the table beside a half-repaired windmill toy. He examined it with a magnifying glass, marveling at its intricate clockwork pattern. The device pulsed softly, in rhythm with the stars outside. He fetched his notebook and began to scribble ideas. Could it be a fragment of the moon's inner workings? A fallen piece of sky machinery? Then it clicked. Literally. The ticking slowed. The glow dimmed. Panic fluttered through him like startled birds. "Oh, fiddlesticks," he muttered, fumbling for his wrench. "I don't even know where you came from, and you're already dying." When he tried to open the casing, A faint voice spoke from within the sphere. "Do not tamper. Return me." Nilo jumped so high he nearly dropped it. "Talking machinery. Oh, this is brilliant and terrifying." The voice spoke again, softer this time. "Return me to the clockwork moon." Chapter 2. Journey to the Sky Forge. Nilo packed his bag with oil, biscuits, and an old umbrella he swore was good luck. He trudged toward the tallest peak in Wimberdell, where legend said the Sky Forge once stood, a place where celestial things were made. As he climbed, clouds parted to reveal faint machinery suspended in the heavens, giant wheels and chains moving with cosmic precision. The sphere in his arms began to vibrate, guiding him like a compass. At the summit, Nilo found a rusted hatch set into the rock. When he turned its gear, the mountain opened like a door. Inside stretched a stairway of moonlight leading upward into the sky itself. He hesitated only long enough to finish a lemon muffin, then began to climb. The stair ended in a vast silver workshop, silent, beautiful, and empty, except for rows of floating mechanisms turning in slow harmony. In the center hung a great gear the size of a hill, half lit, half dark. The clockwork moon. Chapter 3. The Last Cog. The small sphere pulsed brightly now, almost desperate. Nilo found a matching hollow at the heart of the moon's mechanism and set it carefully inside. The instant it clicked into place, the entire chamber stirred awake. Gears spun, chains sang, light rippled across the metal like a sunrise in reverse. The moon's voice, deep and ancient, filled the forge. "Thank you, little maker," it said. "My pulse was failing. Without you, night would have drifted from memory." Nilo wiped his brow, happy to help. "Though I do wish someone would invent a simpler delivery system for these emergencies." The moon chuckled, a sound like distant tides. "Then I grant you a gift. Each time you fix what's broken, you will feel the hum of creation. Follow it, and you'll never build in vain." As he descended the glowing stairs back to Wimberdell, he realized his lanterns flickered in time with the stars. The rhythm of the world had found him. Epilogue. Nilo returned home at dawn to find his workshop shimmering faintly, every unfinished invention softly ticking to life. He smiled and set on a pot of tea, feeling a quiet contentment. And if you ever see the moon glowing just a little brighter, that's because somewhere in Wimberdell, a tinkering soul keeps her heart in rhythm. Story 4. The Queen of Lost Buttons. Introduction. In the pocket-fold realm of Panperipta, where forgotten trinkets gather like constellations and stray socks whisper their grievances, there ruled Queen Nibblesnap, monarch of the Pocket Kingdom. Her crown was made of thimbles, her cloak of mismatched fabrics, and her magic allowed her to teleport through the world by stepping through lost buttons. It was a peculiar gift and usually harmless, until one morning when she stepped through a brass button and landed not in a pocket at all, but in a place that shouldn't exist, a vast, dark plain made entirely of misplaced things. Chapter 1. The Place Between Pockets. Buttons glittered like stars across the floor. Coins, marbles, pens, and pins lay frozen mid-roll. Queen Nibbleknap dusted herself off and adjusted her spectacles. "Oh, crumbs," she muttered. "I've fallen into the between." The between was rumored to be where all lost objects went before they were remembered again. It was meant to be empty, a holding space, but the air buzzed with something alive. As she walked, a shadow moved behind a pile of safety pins, then another. Shapes scurried and whispered in metallic voices. Out from the heap emerged a tall figure stitched together from fabric scraps with a button for each eye. "Welcome, Your Majesty," it rasped. "We've been waiting." Chapter 2. The Collector of Lost Things. The figure bowed deeply. "I am the collector. Every lost item that never finds its owner becomes mine, and soon even your kingdom will be forgotten." Nibbleknap frowned. "Nonsense. Lost things find their way to me for safekeeping." The collector spread his arms, revealing shelves upon shelves of glittering detritus. "Do they? Or do you simply keep what the world has given up on?" He gestured toward the Queen's cloak. The patches began to shimmer, tiny items twitching as if remembering what they once belonged to. A child's marble rolled down her sleeve, glowing faintly. "These things long to be found," the collector said softly. "But you trapped them in your kingdom of misfits." Nibbleknap's heart fluttered. Was it true? She had always thought herself a guardian of the forgotten, not a jailer of memory. Chapter 3. The Button That Found Its Way Home. The collector lifted a golden button from a jar. "This one came from your own robe," he said. "Would you like to see where it belonged before you?" He pressed it into her palm. Images shimmered through her mind. A tailor shop, a smiling apprentice, the button being sewn onto a coat with care. It had been lost decades ago during a snowstorm, long before the Queen's rule. Tears pricked her eyes. He missed it, didn't he? "Yes," said the collector, "but you can return it." Queen Nibbleknap took a deep breath and tossed the button into the air. It spun, glowing like a tiny sun, and vanished. Somewhere in the waking world, a coat mended itself. One by one, the treasures in the between began to glow. Buttons, rings, ribbons, each lifted away, flying back to their rightful places. The collector smiled, fading into light. "You remembered them," he said, "and so they remembered you." Epilogue. When Queen Nibbleknap stepped back into her throne room, her cloak was lighter, her kingdom smaller, but brighter. The remaining trinkets were those truly unwanted yet cherished for it. She sat upon her spool throne and smiled. "Not every lost thing needs to be found," she whispered. "Some just need to be loved." And sometimes, when you find a missing button or coin you swore was gone forever, you might hear a faint sneeze echo from nowhere at all. Queen Nibbleknap, dusting off another rescued treasure. Story 5. The Bridgekeeper's Library. Introduction. In the mist-woven realm of Panperipta, where rivers dream beneath the stars and bridges hum softly as travelers cross them, there lived a gentle troll named Grundle the Gentle. He was not a troll of snarls and tolls. but a troll of stories. Beneath his stone bridge flowed not just water, but whispers, each current carrying the memories of those who had passed above. Grundle spent his days collecting these murmured fragments, storing them in glass jars along the riverbank. His bridge was more than a crossing. It was a library of living tales. But one evening, as the moon dipped behind the hills, Grundle noticed the water had grown silent. The river no longer whispered. The stories had stopped coming. Chapter 1. The Silence Beneath the Bridge. Grundle shuffled down to the river's edge, his massive feet sinking into soft moss. He leaned over the dark water and listened. Nothing but the faint lap of current. "That's not right," he muttered. "You're usually quite chatty." He dipped his hand into the flow, and to his shock, the river felt heavy, like it was dragging something unseen. He pulled up a jar from his shelf, uncorked it, and poured one of the captured whispers into the water. The sound fizzled and died. Something or someone was devouring the stories midstream. Determined, Grundle gathered his courage and followed the riverbank under moonlight. The current led him deep into the woods, to a place he had never gone, the hollow of forgotten bridges, where old crossings crumbled into ruin. There, in the center of the ruins, stood a creature made of water and glass, its body shimmering with trapped words. Chapter 2. The Story Eater. The creature regarded Grundle with hollow eyes that reflected countless phrases. "You keep too many stories," it gurgled. "The river chokes on memory." Grundle tilted his head. "But stories are meant to be remembered." "Not all," said the story eater. "Some must drift away, or the river will drown in its own past." Grundle thought about this. He had spent centuries preserving tales, heroes, heartbreaks, jokes, lullabies, believing each one precious. But perhaps he had taken too many, leaving the river barren of new voices. Still, he could not bear to let them vanish entirely. He knelt and opened one of his largest jars. Inside swirled a collection of bedtime stories told by travelers long gone. "If I promise to release them, will you let the new stories flow again?" The creature nodded, its voice a ripple. "Only if you tell one last story yourself. The river must remember you too." Chapter 3. The Story of the Gentle Bridge Keeper. Grundle sat upon the moss thinking. What story could he tell that mattered as much as the countless lives he had bottled away? At last he began to speak, not of grand deeds, but of quiet nights, lantern light, and the joy of listening. He told the tale of a lonely troll who learned that kindness echoed longer than fear. As he spoke, the river began to shimmer, the current quickening as if leaning closer. His voice filled the hollow, and the jars lining his shelves burst softly, releasing their stories back into the flow. When the last word left his lips, the story eater smiled, a glint of moonlight on glass, and melted back into the water. The river surged free, carrying 1,000 voices onward. Epilogue. The next morning, Grundle returned to his bridge. The jars were gone, but the air was alive with sound, laughter, songs, and secret wishes rushing beneath the stones. He sat down, smiling to himself. From then on, Grundle no longer collected stories. he listened, and the river, grateful for the gift of release, whispered his name with every ripple that passed below. If you ever hear a deep, contented hum while crossing an old bridge at dusk, it's him, Grundle the Gentle, still keeping watch over the library that no longer needs walls. Story 6. The Umbrella and the Storm Bird. Introduction. In the breeze-bound realm of Panperipta, where clouds glide like kites and the rain falls in polite applause, there drifted a sentient umbrella named Umbrella Ulf. He was made of fine indigo silk and polished brass ribs, and he could change color with his emotions. Crimson for anger, teal for joy, silver for calm. Ulf belonged to no one. He simply wandered the breezelands, opening himself to whoever needed shelter. But one evening, the skies darkened beyond anything he had known. A thunderous cry split the heavens. The storm bird had awakened, and it was tearing apart the winds themselves. Chapter 1. The Shattered Sky. Ulf twirled anxiously as the gale howled. Lightning stitched jagged seams across the sky, and gusts tossed him end over end. "Steady now," he shouted to no one in particular. "You are an umbrella, not a leaf." Through the swirling rain, he glimpsed an enormous shape flapping high above, a bird woven from thunderclouds, its feathers streaked with lightning. Wherever it flew, the air unraveled, leaving calm skies in chaos. The storm bird had been bound long ago by a spell of balance. Something had broken that spell. Gathering courage, Ulf spun his handle into the wind and soared upward. He would have to reach the creature and calm it before the breezelands tore apart. But as he climbed higher, a bolt of lightning struck his canopy, scorching a hole through the fabric. His blue faded to gray. Still, he pressed on, propelled by a single thought: I was made to protect, not hide. Chapter 2. The Eye of the Tempest. At the heart of the storm, the winds stilled into a vast circle of quiet, the storm bird's eye. The creature hovered there, wings folded like cliffs of rain, eyes glowing electric white. Ulf landed on a nearby gust and bowed respectfully. "Good evening, mighty storm bird. You seem to be in quite a mood." The bird's voice rolled like thunder. "The sky has forgotten my song. The mortals fear me now. I was once the rhythm of their rains, the harmony of their harvests. Now they call me disaster." Ulf's ribs trembled. Perhaps they've simply forgotten the melody. I could remind them. I'm rather good with weather, you know. The storm bird tilted its head. "A little umbrella will teach the sky to sing." Ulf's fabric brightened slightly, pale gold determination. "Yes, but you must let me stand in your rain, and I will carry your song again." Chapter 3. The Song of Rainlight. The storm bird lowered its head, and from its beak fell a single drop of lightning sizzling onto Ulf's canopy. He opened wide, catching it. The bolt wove through his fabric like embroidery, patching the burn with radiant silver. Then, with a deep breath of wind, Ulf began to hum. His frame vibrated softly, releasing a tune that was half thunder, half lullaby. The storm paused, listening. The melody grew stronger, echoing across the breezelands. Every droplet of rain shimmered with color: turquoise, lavender, pale rose. The bird spread its wings and joined in, its cry harmonizing with the umbrella's song. The storm softened into music. When the final note faded, the sky was calm again. Ulf floated gently to the ground, his silk gleaming bright cerulean once more. The storm bird bowed low. You carry my song now, little guardian. Keep it safe. Epilogue. Since that day, Umbrella Ulf has wandered the breezelands humming faintly whenever the rain begins to fall. Those who find him by chance often feel calmer, as though the weather itself is listening. And sometimes, during the softest showers, if you tilt your umbrella just right, you might hear a far-off harmony, an ancient bird singing with a brave umbrella who once taught the sky how to remember its song.
Panperipta grows quiet for now, but its skies still shimmer and its stories never sleep. Stay as long as you like. Another tale is always waiting. Take a deep breath and drift.